This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard, hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for us on your podcast provider.
I'm not going to criticise leaders of other governments that take different decisions because it's for them to set out the reasons for the decisions they take. We're all trying to do our best here.
Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon refused to start a fight with Westminster when asked why she wants school pupils to wear face masks while Boris Johnson doesn't. Although she did take a moment to point out.
We mandated face coverings, I think, in shops earlier than England did, but England later followed suit.
And it followed suit on how to grade exam results too. Could it happen again? With a growing number of schools and colleges in England defying the government by asking older pupils to wear face masks, pressure is growing for another U-turn, once more going where Scotland went before. Our editorial column says the Prime Minister should swallow his pride.
When clear medical advice is scant, common sense often prevails. Young people are socialising and exposing themselves to the risk of infection outside school. It follows there must be a danger of them spreading it when they're passing close to each other in crowded corridors. Nor does it make sense to require older children to use face coverings on transport, in shops and in taxis, but not when they're in confined spaces in school. And aside from combating infections, the biggest battle is assuring parents and pupils alike that schools are safe. If wearing masks in corridors does that, then it seems a clear payoff, despite what Number 10 thinks.
I'm joined now by Julie McCulloch from the Association of School and College Leaders. Julie, do we need face masks in schools?
So this is obviously a situation that's fast moving. We're learning more about this virus on a daily basis. At the moment, I think our view and the view of our members, all of whom are leading schools and colleges across the UK, is essentially that, they're not epidemiologists, they're not virologists, they know about running their own schools, but what they don't know, what they don't have access to, is all of those eminent scientists that the government does. So I think what they're saying is what we need from the government is really clear guidance and direction on what are the pros and cons of using face coverings in schools in different settings, and then they can make a decision about how they make that work in their own settings.
What guidance is there for you at the moment from the government?
The government guidance at the moment, the guidance that came out at the beginning of the summer around opening schools again in September, what that says is that current evidence means that the government isn't recommending the use of face coverings in schools. And they set out a number of reasons for that. One is that as we all are discovering, I guess, as we're wearing face masks out and about in shops and such like these days, it does make communication more difficult, and so it can make teaching and learning more problematic. The second reason, I think, is about concerns about the misuse of masks. If you've got children wearing masks, perhaps not fitting them properly, touching their faces more, flicking them across the room, all of that sort of thing, that there are concerns about that, and I think we and our members really understand that and see that. What the government hasn't supported schools with, though, and we've been asking them for this for quite a long time, and we haven't had this clarity, is, okay, so you're saying you don't recommend the use of masks in schools, but what if an individual head teacher has a child or a member of staff, for that matter, who really wants to wear a face mask? Is there any reason that they shouldn't say to them, fair enough, if that makes you feel safer about coming back to school, then that's fine. And also, if, we all know that schools are in all sorts of different buildings, have all sorts of different layouts and setups. We've certainly had some of our members asking us if we have maybe particularly crowded corridors, or if we have, a room with particularly poor ventilation, but we have no choice but to use it, could we say, actually, we want to ask children and staff in our school, either all the time, or if they're in particular times or in particular places, to wear face coverings? And I think it would be very helpful if the government could provide some more guidance for schools on that, to say, is it reasonable for them to say, okay, the government doesn't recommend this usually, but in particular circumstances it's absolutely fine for school leaders to make that call themselves.
And how easily could schools put those rules into place? Because I am thinking, it's only a couple of weeks before they're all supposed to be reopening. There's an awful lot of preparation going on. Can this sort of thing be done quite quickly and easily?
There's a huge amount of preparation going on, and certainly, different parts of the country, even within England, schools start at different times. So a lot of schools in Leicester, for example, are going back this week. So this is very, very imminent. It's not an easy thing for a school to turn around very quickly. They clearly need to think about what would be the policies and the rules and regulations that they would want to put in place around wearing face coverings. If it was a directive from government, then they need to work out how they can make that work in their own setting. If it's something that's a little bit more open, if it could be that we end up in a position where schools are able to suggest that people wear face masks in particular circumstances, but not necessarily required to. They would then clearly need to think through, thinking about, again, their own layouts, their own settings, how might they want to interpret that government guidance. And then obviously it's not always an easy thing to communicate to pupils and to parents as well. If you've got schools reopening in a couple of days and suddenly parents are told they have to send their children in with face masks, they may not have those. So it would certainly, if there is going to be a U-turn on this, we are very keen for it to happen sooner rather than later, to give school leaders time to prepare for this.